All right. We are back with the Two Player Podcast. I am Erik Kane.
And I'm Paul Tassi.
Once again, we are going to be talking about Game of Thrones. We're a little bit later than usual this week, and I blame Paul for that.
Yeah, it's my bad.
Yeah, it's Paul's fault. So you can shout at him.
It's only one day as opposed to like 5 weeks like we're usually late, so
yeah, that's true.
It's acceptable.
But if you do want to shout at him, you can shout at him on Twitter, at Paul Tassi. Or you can shout at me at Erik Kane. Yeah, this is a little shameless plug here. The fourth episode of season 7 is The Spoils of War, and it was a pretty damn good episode, actually.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it leaked early, and while I didn't read spoilers, I did hear people saying it was really good, even from the leaked copy, which I can't imagine watching that battle in like 360p, like low def. God. Like what's the point?
I know. I had a bunch of people telling me, like, go watch it. You need to watch it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to watch it on some crappy, I'm going to watch it on Sunday. I'm going to enjoy myself. I mean, I could have gotten my review out earlier if I'd watched it ahead of time, I suppose. But I don't think it matters to watch. Yeah. So with Walking Dead, for instance, I get screeners ahead of time to do my reviews. And AMC has got to be the cheapest company in the world because their screeners are so low definition. It really kind of sucks watching The Walking Dead in that definition. You'd think if they wanted reviewers to review their stuff well, they would make it look as nice as possible, but I guess not.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird, but I definitely, as far as season 7 goes, this would be the worst episode to watch. A leaked version of, because that battle was so glorious. Yeah,
I'm starting to wonder now if that is like our battle of the season, or if they're going to spring one on us at like episode 6 also. But I mean, this was logistically like bigger than Battle of the Bastards and like harder to pull off. So I'd be a little surprised if we saw anything as epic as that the rest of the season. But I mean, maybe.
I hope so. I mean, given that they're shorter seasons, I feel like they have a little more budget to do big stuff in them, right? If you don't have to pay the actors and you don't have to pay for all the crew and everything for basically 3 whole episodes, you can save all that money and you can put it into large set pieces like another battle.
I don't even think HBO cares about the money at this point. I mean, they were willing to fund this for like 4 more years if they could. So at this point, I think it's just like it's whatever they want to do themselves and how much work they want to put in it. But what they're putting in is pretty astonishing, frankly. I mean, I'm consistently blown away by it.
Yeah, I don't know that I would rank this quite as intense as the Battle of the Bastards, simply because it was maybe only because it was so obvious who the winner was going to be this time around. I mean, it was such an uneven fight. You had a very small Lannister force, and you had that probably could have gotten beat up just by the Dothraki, let alone Drogon showing up. So
yeah, well, that's what I was wondering when it started. I'm like, is the actual dragon going to show up too, or is the Dothraki just going to tear through everybody? And then it's like, oh, okay. I guess so.
It would have been, as much as I like the battle, it would have been really interesting if Daenerys had simply showed up on her dragon and just laid waste to the army without any help from Dothraki.
Yeah, I could have seen that. I think it would have been less enjoyable to watch, but still cool.
But it would have packed a certain punch simply because it would be like, okay, this chick by herself can take out a whole Lannister contingent.
Well, that would have been pretty dangerous on her part if she is the only thing there, and they throw every spear and crossbow bolt and arrow at her, and they're not focusing on anything else that could go wrong. Yeah. She's just hit by a stray thing. But
unless she had all 3 dragons, of course.
Well, she needs 2 other people to ride them. So
does she need people to ride her dragons? I don't understand.
I don't know. That's a big book thing, and I don't think that's really been mentioned in the show at all. But I mean, judging by what we've seen, where there was it last season where the dragons were just tearing apart a fleet just on their own, or 2 seasons ago. But I don't really think they need a rider per se, but if they didn't, then I don't know why she would have been riding it. So it's kind of a weird situation they've set up.
I feel like she needs to be in the vicinity, but I feel like she could still basically instruct
sign languaging to the dragons. It's like what they're supposed to do.
Totally. Yeah, she's just up there gesticulating on the top of the one dragon.
My guess is that she'll have dragon riders, and my guess is that they would be Jon Snow and Tyrion. But I don't know. It's a little.
Well, that's what everyone's. Yeah, that's what everyone's been saying for years. I guess we'll just have. I mean, at this point, we have so many Game of Thrones theories that have been around for such a long time. It's almost hard to get rid of those theories. You know,
I've almost stopped looking them up because there's just too many and they overlap too much. And I mean, a lot of them have panned out. I mean, but yeah. Like the Jon's parents theory was solved years ago. So
yeah, and people are still questioning that one, and I guess it's still possible that he's not Rhaegar's son because we haven't had an explicit statement that he's Rhaegar's son.
It would just be very who else? Whose else's son would he be? I don't know. That would be a little strange, but
then there's the theory that that Mira is Jon's twin. I kind of like that theory.
Yeah,
I kind of like it because I'd like the character, and it would be cool if there was more to her. And I like that in the casting, at least, the actress who plays Mira could easily be Jon's twin.
Now that I'm thinking about it, that definitely. I doubt that at least the show would elevate her to that level of prominence this late into the game. They're like, oh yes, it was Mira all along, who's the chosen one or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the books and the show are so different at this point that it's really hard to see that happening.
Yeah.
I am liking the fact that they're different more and more. As much as there are things that bother me, I'm excited more and more to read the books.
Well, it's hard to know what even is different at this point. You're always trying to guess, was that a decision Martin would have made, or is that a show thing, or because he's supervising and giving input, but he's also been very vocal about how different the show is at this point and how it's a total kind of departure in many ways from the books. So.
Well, you have to think Sansa isn't there for one thing, and then she's back in the Vale still.
Yeah, but we're so far ahead now. I feel like we're at the point where they could write okay, Sansa and Littlefinger are secretly ruling the Vale with their plan, and then they come and help Jon Snow later. So totally. I feel like that could still probably happen, even if the whole Ramsay Bolton marriage thing doesn't happen in the books, which I hope it doesn't. But
I can't.
It's too late for that now. Yeah, they already did one person marrying Ramsay, so.
It would be pretty bad if it happened all over again. We had to deal
exact same thing.
And then of course there's the other Targaryen in the books, the young potential fake Targaryen.
Yeah, other than Stoneheart. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest factors at play in the books, that because he's such a monumental character. The fact that he's alive and is has a claim to the throne and is trying to ally with Dany or marry her or whatever he's doing, and he's gathering his own allies, and Tyrion was advising him and not Daenerys, and that's a whole other can of worms that I have no idea how that's going to get resolved.
but the very fact that these major plot points are not in the show means that the books are going to be really, really different. So that's exciting to me. I guess I've never consumed media this way. I've never had a show air before the books that it's adapted by.
Yeah, it's a really unique situation. And it's going to be weird because the book's going to come out and I'm going to read it in 48 hours. And that's going to be... I'll be like, well, that answers a lot. Yeah. And then I'll have to wait 6 years for the next one.
So other big things happen in this podcast, or in this episode, not in this podcast.
In this podcast.
In this podcast right here, Arya had a great duel with Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah, that was awesome. I liked that a lot.
That was a lot of fun. Well, and just really the whole thing with Arya. We have now 3 Starks in Winterfell.
Yeah, it's just really cool to see them together. And I really like what it's doing to the format of the show, where we don't have to be oh, here's 20 minutes in Bravos with Arya and Darkness. And it's nice to have them all in one spot, interacting with each other. So we only have 2 or 3 main groups as opposed to 11.
Yeah.
So that's handy.
Yeah, definitely. I thought that Arya's conversation with Bran was a lot better also than what we got last week with Bran and Sansa.
Yeah, Bran was purposefully less weird to her, which was
he's I always
funny.
Liked you better.
Yeah,
I don't know. I still am trying to figure out I think it must have just been the show kind of playing that up for shock value a little bit. I don't see the point of Bran saying that still, even though he's not like human and empathetic anymore. It seems like he still has enough common sense, at least, to.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not sure if I'm a fan of what they're doing with Bran, where he seems like he's sort of like a human MacGuffin, where it's like, oh, remember all those secrets that like we need to find concrete proof for, like Littlefinger's betrayal and Jon's parents. Like he's just going to be like, oh, I'm the Oracle. I know all the secrets. Like here's your answer. Here's your answer. Like,
yeah, in a sense, like since we didn't have, in the book, in the first book, we have Ned Stark with all his memories. And those memories all hint at things that happened in the past, especially Jon's parentage and whatnot. So, but we don't have that in the show. So you almost need somebody like Bran to come in and kind of fill in those details based just because of how they.
Yeah, you do. It's just
how
it
they
just
did
seems
it.
a little clunky. I don't know, because like I'm sure this is how Littlefinger's going to get found out, and then he'll be strung up, and it just seems like after all his manipulation, like, oh, I ran into a psychic kid and he's gonna tell everyone all my lies. Like, shoot.
Yeah, I liked that moment though.
Yeah,
I really
that was
liked
good.
when Littlefinger's like, and you come back to all this chaos, and then Bran's like, chaos is a ladder.
That was a good Littlefinger impression. I like that.
Yeah, right. I just try to do my Batman voice, and I get Littlefinger.
It's pretty close, like Irish Batman.
Yeah, Irish Batman. I'm gonna have to work on all my impressions. We'll do a podcast of character impressions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those, I think, were the two kind of biggest moments of the episode. Arya returning to the North, or returning to Winterfell. The stupid guards like denying her entry. It was kind of funny though. That was
fun. I think that mirrored a scene in season 1 or something where she was also trying to get past some guards. So they're doing a lot of these little mirror moments.
So many of them.
Yeah.
Even on the cliff walls that Jon shows, the cliff painting or the cave paintings that Jon shows Daenerys, you see those symbols that are like almost like a flower, but with like spiraling off arms, swirls, and that's an image we saw about north of the wall where the Night's King or the Night King and the White Walkers.
Oh yeah,
were.
You're right. My favorite
little things.
My favorite joke about this episode was like it was like a Reddit thread or someone or something. It's like Jon and Davos like scrambling to etch all these cave paintings themselves to convince Daenerys that the White Walkers were real.
Yeah, they're like, they get the White Walkers done, and they're like, all right, we need to make their eyes blue. What are we going to use for that?
And she's like, why does this one say Jon Snow rules?
Tyrion drools. Yeah.
Speaking of, I'm glad that the show is openly acknowledging the sparks between Jon and Daenerys now.
Yeah.
With Davos' comment, that was great. I love that.
Yeah, you've been staring at her good heart.
Jon Snow's like, there's no time for that. White Walkers, blah, blah, blah.
And he probably means it too. Like he's not like he's not a very, I don't know. He doesn't strike me as the type to really get caught up in much of anything fun or
to be honest though, like I don't really see this plotline ending without them at least like engaged to be married, because that's the only thing I can see that makes this alliance make sense. Because like Jon's not going to bend the knee. Like they're not going to become bitter enemies. So like the compromise, I would think, would be like them getting married, or at least acting like they're going to get married. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But it's hard to see that not being at least proposed by probably Tyrion or somebody at some point.
God, I hope sooner than later, because I just don't know how much more of Dany saying bend the knee. It's getting like I already have like my issues with Daenerys, but her just the constant like I will only help you if you bend the knee. It's like
that's weird, because like you're really telling you like Dany otherwise, but then every time she brings it up, you're like, oh, come on, stop.
Yeah, it's just kind of like it's so stubborn. There's no real logic to it. I mean, here's a powerful ally. Why does she care so much about ruling the North? Like, and how can she? I mean, he should just tell her straight up, like, hey, if I do that, I'm gonna get. I mean, my people won't follow me anymore.
I mean, he said that, but then her response to that was just like, oh, like they will never know. And it's like, well, if they don't know, what's the point? Isn't that the whole? Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. So I don't think it's just gonna be Jon's gonna be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll just do it, whatever. I don't think that'll be the resolution.
I just hope we don't have 3 more episodes this season of that conversation where John comes back and he's like, listen, lady, we got to go stop the White Walkers. And she's like, oh, totally, when you bend the knee. And then the next episode, hey, let's go stop the White Walkers.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll do that as soon as you bend the knee. It's like, okay, we've heard this conversation now.
I'm assuming this plot line will transform into I'm assuming Jamie and Bronn are going to be captured. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't be. Maybe they were just hiding underwater till everyone leaves, but I would assume that. I mean, I haven't watched the previews or anything, so maybe they make that explicit. But Jamie's obviously not dead, which is what some people thought immediately. But that would be the lamest Game of Thrones major character death in history.
Oh my god! Well, it would be, for one thing, not just because of the way he died, but just because there's more Jamie's story to be told.
That's what I said in my article. I was like, if this is The Walking Dead, I'm like, this would have been a true fake death, and everyone would be freaking out. But people know Game of Thrones better than that, so no one was really thinking he was dead, I don't think.
Yeah. I do love that image of him sinking because it mirrors the image of Bran falling from the tower almost perfectly.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm missing all these callbacks. Yep. That's a good one.
There are so many. There are so many of these callbacks. It helps that I just watched the first season.
Yeah, because they're all from season 1, pretty much.
A lot of them. Not all of them, but quite a few.
Have you seen this YouTube video where someone made their own fan cut of Jaime Lannister's worst nightmare, and it's him talking about the Mad King burning everyone and saying burn them all, and why he killed them, and interspersed with the actual battle of all these people being set on fire and his horrific reaction to it. It's really well done. you should seek that out. I'll send it to you if I can find it.
Okay,
but that's that was really cool.
And when we keep looking at these callbacks, I think that's an important thing to note, because if there's one other person I can see saying burn them all and saying just to hell with it, it's Cersei.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Dany, but yeah, no, I think it's Cersei too, because Dany's not on that path, but Cersei is on that path. And then she already did it. She already blew up a whole church of people with fire. So,
and if you back her into a corner, you know that she'll take any means necessary. And I can see her very much setting up a similar thing to just take everyone out with her rather than lose.
And
then Jaime not being cool with that.
I will be very surprised if Jaime does not end up killing Cersei by the end of this.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
No, it's very much their story is very much a cycle at this point, with themes repeating, with scenes repeating,
and I hope it breaks out of that a little bit, because I don't want every moment to be kind of like that, it's some grand wheel of time or whatever. But
yeah,
a couple
but it
things
has to be to agree also.
Yeah,
I mean, the idea is that hopefully it doesn't repeat itself to the point where Daenerys is another Mad King, where there's another, there will be some changes, one hopes, but I do like the sort of cyclical thematic stuff.
My personal theory is that, and I've thought this for a while, I don't think the concept of the Iron Throne will survive. I think either the whole keep or the throne itself will be torn down, and just there won't be one ruler of Westeros anymore. It'll be
I like that. That's a great outcome,
because if someone else, it's like Daenerys or Jon Snow on the throne, it's we've been there before. We've seen 4 or 5 different people on the throne already. It has to be. That goes back to Daenerys' I don't want to be on the wheel. I want to break the wheel, or whatever that quote is. Yeah, and it's just really hard to see the whole concept of the Iron Throne surviving the end of the series.
Yeah, totally. I wonder what happens to all the Dothraki after all the fighting.
Yeah, they're what do we do now? They're I don't know.
She's like, can
we raid all the other kingdoms? No, I own the kingdoms now. They're crap.
Yeah, and the Unsullied are a little bit less problematic.
Unsullied will do whatever you want. Just sit in a corner forever. They'll be okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, I think that covers most of this episode's bases. I guess we have to see where the Hound and the Brotherhood Without Banners end up. I think there's something important that's going to come with them.
If we are heading towards another big battle, I have to believe it's another battle at the Wall with all these people, maybe with the dragons. I know I've heard the previews. There's something about an ice white dragon or something that may or may not exist or something. I don't know, but. If we're having one more big battle, it'll be that one, and I think the Wall will come down, but we'll see.
Well, either that or there'll be a King's Landing battle or something like that.
Yeah.
Though I don't know. I mean, something has to
I
happen.
feel like they
there,
might save King's Landing for next season, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, if there is an undead dragon, you got to wonder if maybe it's one of her dragons that gets killed and then comes back from the dead.
I didn't think about that. Interesting. I don't know.
That happen for sure.
I wouldn't think so because they can resurrect even like skeletons, so it could just be like a skeleton dragon that was dead a long time ago. I don't know, but I guess we'll see.
That'd be cool. Yeah. Well, cool. I guess we'll see. I did watch the preview for next week. I didn't give away a whole lot, so
they never really do.
But no, they don't. I mean, you can kind of get a sense maybe, but there's always something you don't expect. I suppose we'll see Jorah soon. I suppose we need to see more of what Sam's doing, unless that was kind of his.
I feel like Sam's got to leave the Citadel soon. I don't know what he's still doing at the Citadel after the Jorah stuff and
I know. Well,
stuff.
He's so good at learning things really fast that maybe he will become a wizard.
Solving
like
300-year-old mysteries in like an afternoon.
Yeah. So he's gonna come he's gonna have like lightning bolts, magic missiles.
That would actually be awesome.
Fireballs. Yeah, he just becomes like this great battle wizard, like standing on top of the wall, just yeah.
Really hoping for that ending. Yes.
Yeah, he sits on the Iron Throne at the end. It's King Sam.
Yep.
All right. Well, this was the Two Player Podcast, and thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with more Game of Thrones.
Yes.